with Malachy McCourt, and he and his brother Frank McCourt have written a play called A Couple of Blaguards. Not a word that we associate with the United States all that much. Tell me, first of all, what is a blackguard?
A blackguard, in a present-day connotation, would be a charming, rowdy rogue. And it was started with Jonathan Swift around 1734 when the Dublin dock workers unloading British coal, we said in Ireland one time, burn everything English except their coal. But anyway, so Swift would refer to the lads would go off after they'd unloaded the ship and they were all dirty and what. They'd leave one of their company there to guard the ship so as the Dublin people would not steal the coal. And so they get dirty and they were called blackguard. So then it was corrupted into blackguard, and that's hence a couple of blackguards.
So are you and your brother Frank, are you the blackguards you're referring to here?
We are referring to ourselves. The thing about when you're an oppressed people like we were, the thing is you have laugh at yourself first before you give the other bastards a chance to do that. So the Brits were always laughing at us and looking down on us, saying we were childish, childlike kind of people who couldn't be trusted.
Now, you and your brother, of course, have brought us Angela's Ashes and A Monk Swimming.
Yes.
What's it like collaborating with Frank?
Working with Frank, I wouldn't call it working. Collaborating was, we never thought about it. You know, Bob Dylan says, I don't write songs, I write them down. So what Frank and I did essentially was reminisce, and then we'd write it down. And that was it. So we always had a great deal of fun. And we did this piece for a long time. We did it in Chicago. We did it on the high seas of various cruises in Africa and India, all over the place. We did it in San Francisco, Chicago, and of course in New York, Ireland, and all over. But it was great fun. And my mission in life was to make Frank laugh. And despite what we would think was the deadliness, the death and disease and despair of Angela's Ashes, he had an amazing sense of humor. And when he started laughing, there was no stopping. He couldn't control himself. So that was, so my mission was to make him laugh.
You mentioned the word reminiscences.
Yes.
Reminiscences aren't always exactly the way they happen. So in A Couple of Blaguards, how much is fiction and how much is nonfiction?
There are no exaggerations in A Couple of Blaguards. There are merely elaborations.
I was waiting for the however. Yeah.
No, it was essentially when you're in the midst of poverty, and the Irish, when an Englishman speaks well, they say he's eloquent. When an Irishman speaks well, they say, you have the gift of the gab, and you kiss the blarney stone. It's always that pejorative about our use of the language. Whereas the Irish, and I like to be thought of as part of that, is we took this dull, flat, idiotic language and made it a thing of beauty, because just about every best writer of the English language is Irish. And somebody said that the Irish derive the greatest benefit from the English language. They court it like a beautiful woman. They make it bray with donkey laughter. They fling it at the sky like paint pots full of rainbow colors. Then they make it chant a dirge of man's fate, of man's follies, like a soft rain falling over the barren earth. They have taken the language of the oppressor and turned it to sorcery. And when you look back at people like Swift and Wilde and O'Casey and Yeats and Heaney, and you can go on with the list of Irish writers, Richard Brinsley Sheridan, and Irish people, what's his name, Burke, and all the guys that went to the English Parliament and absolutely confounded them with the language. They didn't know what we were talking about because we used the language so well.
How do you take that language? How do you and Frank take poverty and death and these terrible puns and weave them into a beautiful and a funny story?
It's the sort of thing that's we had nothing else to do.
So you're right out of boredom, is what you're telling me.
No, not on board. No,
I'm kidding. I'm
we
teasing.
never. That's one word you never hear in the slums of Ireland because we were so busy. First of all, the death rate was astronomical. 11 of my classmates died. 3 of our siblings died. A little girl and 2 boys, twin boys. And,
At young ages.
They were children. But you see, death in Ireland is not always fatal, you see, because in Ireland, they mourn marriages and celebrate death because they figure you're going on to something better, you see, up there. They believe in that kind of rubbish, but I don't.
How did the people of Limerick react to a couple of blackguards?
Some people figured, various ethnic groups have diseases. The Jews have Tay-Sachs and blacks have sickle cell. The Irish disease is respectability. And so many of them acquire it over the years. So, and then that's what happens. So some of them say, for example, my mother, Angela, she came to see this, and do you know the dopey things we say at times? Is obvious things. I could go to the theatre and say, "Is there anybody sitting here?" Obviously not. So one of the obvious things I said, I took my mother to the theatre. She was alive at the time. But anyway, she came to see Blaguards, and right in the middle of it, she stood up and said, "It wasn't that way at all. It's all a pack of lies." And I said, well, come up on the stage and tell us your side of the story. "I will not," she said. "I wouldn't be seen on the stage with the likes of ye. I have a good name to maintain," and sat down. And so the audience thought it was part of the show. And people were asking, what happened with the mother part and all of that. But anyway, she was outraged because in it we referred to bodily fluids and functions and so forth. And so she thought we shouldn't be talking about buckets being thrown into lavatories, shit and piss and everything else like that. Yeah.
Now, I'm sitting here laughing, so maybe this question shouldn't even be asked, but is A Couple of Blaguards an Irish play for only Irish people?
I would say not. It's about family and about the elements that surround. There's school, of course. There's the tyranny of religion. And
So common themes in everybody's life.
In everybody's life, yes. Exactly. Death, disease, despair. There's an approval, disapproval, self-esteem, not looking down, being looked down on. And then, of course, tuppence halfpenny, looking down on tuppence and all that kind of thing. You eventually, as the Irish poet said, become the thing you hate the most. And there was, I have no formal education. I left school when I was 13 because I failed everything in school, and I had to leave. And you couldn't go on to high school if you didn't get this certificate that every kid in Ireland gets. And I was so bloody stupid, and I couldn't understand it. So the thing that saved me was reading. I got an omnivorous reader, and that saved me. And then Frank. He left school early too, but at the age of 22, he went to school and got a GED, and then he went on to university and then became one of the most beloved school teachers in America. And then people like my friend Charlie DeFanti asked me about writing a book after Angela died. I didn't know I could write because I had this low thing inside me was, you can't write. You don't know anything. Low self-esteem.
Yes.
Thank you. I couldn't think of it. But I couldn't get it. I couldn't get what all that was about. So but anyway, he encouraged me, and I wrote it down. I didn't write it. I wrote it down, and then I got entranced with this. Jesus, writing is. So I come down here with Welcome Rain now, John Weber, and he was the one that said he would publish Among Swimming, and then he said no, he moved me on to a bigger publisher and all that, and all of a sudden I became a best-selling author.
Who needs an education?
Yeah,
right? Who needs
bollocks
that?
on
Education is about life.
It absolutely ruins wisdom.
Malachy, thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you,
It was
Les.
a pleasure.
No,
Malachy McCourt, along with Frank McCourt. The book is called A Couple of Blaguards. Thank you very much.
We're done.
We're done.
Can you imagine that?